Having a clear mood in your art is essential for communicating the intention to anyone seeing it. An illustration that does this well will be memorable, while one that doesn't is much less likely to leave any lasting impression. If you aren't already, you should start making a conscious decision of what sort of feeling you would like to come across in the things you make, and then plan what you will do to achieve it. Here are some ideas for that. Color is the most obvious tool for this, but there's more that you can do with it than you might think. There's of course the common color associations, like red for danger and yellow for cheerfulness, but that isn't all there is to picking a palette. The value range you use, or the lightness and darkness range, is I think more impactful than just what hues you pick. Low contrast gives a gentle, peaceful, or solemn feeling, while high contrast is energetic and intense, more likely to be able to give off negative emotions like anger and fear. A lot of people, myself included, have a value range they naturally default to and don't tend to stray from much, and that's one way you can be limiting yourself without realizing it. Taking this further, you can shift your low contrast to be lighter or darker. When you use mostly light values, it's called high key, and when you use mostly dark values, it's called low key. Like I did here, you can have an image that's mostly, say, light values, and then have just a small area or areas of darker value. Since the image is still mostly light and low contrast, it still has a peaceful mood to it, and including select darker areas like this is a good way to prevent a light value piece from looking too washed out. I've said it before, but this is one reason I strongly recommend doing small, rough thumbnail paintings when you plan your art. It's so much easier to figure out what colors and values work well when you're seeing how it reads very rough and from far away. You'll also get to throw on colors, filters, and different blending mode layers without being concerned with the neatness of your marks and the organization of your layers. If the mood is clear in the thumbnail, it will be in the final piece as well. The second thing I recommend being more intentional about is what kinds of lines and shapes you use. These convey feelings as well. You can't make an illustration look especially intense, energetic, or frightening with friendly-looking round shapes. Instead, you would be better off using straighter lines and sharp points. This first tiger looks like it could be friendly, and the second looks more likely to attack a person. The only significant change between them is their lines and shapes. Composition is another aspect of visual storytelling that has a lot of influence on the mood. For this illustration, I wanted to frame the character in a way that made her seem trapped. The dimensions of your canvas space is part of what makes up the composition, and here I made my canvas narrow and vertical to give the impression that this is a tight space with walls that seem to be closing in. A wide ratio would be better for doing the opposite, making a space that feels vast and open. There's a set of terms used commonly in filmmaking to describe the framing of shots, and I find it's beneficial to think of yourself as like a filmmaker, positioning your camera in an intentional way. Here I used a high-angle view, meaning that the imaginary camera is up high and looking down at the character, giving them a small underdog quality. The opposite of this is a low angle, which makes the subject feel big, powerful, and sometimes heroic. The tilt of your imaginary camera can also go side to side. This kind of view, where everything is at a tilt, aka a Dutch angle, is great for adding intensity to a scene. If you're aiming for an uneasy, unsettling, or just dramatic feeling composition, then this is a good thing to try. The other thing to think about is how close up the subject or subjects in your art should be. For the topic of mood specifically, you can think about what element is better off being more clearly read. If the environment is the thing that's causing the mood to be what it is, then a more zoomed out, establishing shot would probably be best. If the expression on a character or character's faces is a more important element and the environment isn't a big factor, then a more close-up view would be better. As it is, this character's expression is that more important element here, and I think seeing not very much of the environment here is better for the mystery and keeping the space feeling cramped. A different way I could approach this though would be to zoom out so that the environment is more readable than the character. The mood is still scary, but now the size of the monster is the more clear tell of that. Character expression isn't just shown in faces, but in body language as well. Without a visible face, you can still feel that between these two sketches, in the first, the person is brave and ready to take on their opponent, while in the second, they're afraid and outmatched. Because of empathy, the expressiveness of a character tells the viewer what they should be feeling about whatever the character is reacting to. Both of these large figures look the same, but one is scarier than the other. I've put up the time-lapse for this illustration on Patreon with free access for anyone who would like to see that in full. The link is in the description below. For some tips about drawing facial expressions, you might find this video helpful. Thank you Patreon members, and thanks for watching.